Jubilee, a celebration of music in Kentucky.
Tonight, from the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington and the Festival of the Bluegrass, Missouri natives by birth, but Mayberry residents by legend, the traditional sound of the Dillards.
Well, you know, the Dillards are the original Dillards, and we started out together in 1962, and we have Dean Webb on mandolin, we have Doug Dillard on banjo, we have Mitch Jane on bass, and myself, Rodney Dillard, on guitar. That's the four guys that were on the Andy Griffith Show. Of course, we've had different configurations of the Dillards through the years when people would leave and come back, you know. And so that is the group the way it stands now. The old guys are all back together.
This is an old song that Dean and I wrote before we ever left Salem, Missouri. This is many, many years ago. We knew it was going to be a long time before we got back. We were already homesick, and we wrote this song, which everybody else thinks is traditional, which is all right because they think that about us too. This is called The Old Home Place.
It's been 10 long years since I left my home in the hollow where I was born, where the cool fall nights made the wood smoke rise and the fox hunter blew his horn. I fell in love with the girl in the town. I thought that she would be true. I went away to Charlottesville to work in a sawmill crew. What have they done with the old home place? Why did they tear it down? And why did I leave the plow in the field and look for a job in the town? Somebody else, the taverns took my pay, and now I stand where the old home stood before they took it away. Now the geese fly south and the wind grows cold as I stand here and hang my head. I've lost my love, I've lost my home, and now I wish that I were dead. What have they done with the old home place? Why did they tear it down? And why did I leave my plow in the field and look for a job in the town? What have they done with the old home place? Why did they tear it down? And why did I leave the plow in the field and look for a job in the town?
Thank you all very much.
Doug and I, Doug being my brother, I being me, started out together. My dad and my mother both played music, and we just grew up with it. It was a natural thing for us. Doug gravitated toward the banjo. My dad actually bought us instruments so he could have some backup because he's a fiddle player, old-time fiddle player. So we just naturally started playing. One thing led to another. Doug and I got more and more interested in the music. We made a couple of recordings back in the 50s on a local label in St. Louis. It was called KET Records. And I was still in high school when we made these records. And so we first had our taste of what recording and those things were like. Later on, Dean Webb came into the picture because he was friends of a fellow that we had mutual friendship with, Dale Sled. And Dale introduced us to Dean. And in those days, it was hard to find bluegrass players. You had to drive for miles because you would hear about, well, there's a banjo picker, 300 miles away, and you'd jump in the car and go find him. And that's how we found Dean, being a mandolin player. So Dean and I and Douglas started playing together. I had this idea that I wanted to go somewhere and do something with the music. I was in college at the time. I wasn't happy doing that. And Douglas and I decided that we would just pick up and go to the West Coast, like kids do. Hey, what do you want to do? I don't know, let's go to the West Coast. Dean and Doug and I, and Mitch was a disc jockey in a local radio station in the town that Doug and I are from, Salem, Missouri. And we would go down and hang out when we were kids. And so we became acquainted, became friends that way, and we started doing a lot of picking together. And when we decided to go to Los Angeles, Mitch said, I'll just go with you. So he sold everything he had, and we packed our automobile, which was Dean's '55 Cadillac, and climbed in that thing and headed for Los Angeles with $9.50. We got as far as Oklahoma City from Springfield, Missouri.
We went to California in 1962 in Dean's old Cadillac to see if we could make a living out there. It's not what I would advise the average family who thinks they can play bluegrass to do, because I have a feeling no matter what your luck was, you'd starve to death in Oklahoma City. We actually made it to California, and this is the story of the Dillards' luck. We had a recording contract within a month, and in 2 months we got a job on the Andy Griffith Show. Well, now Kentucky people, I think, really like the Andy Griffith Show because that's getting close to home. And Andy was from North Carolina, and the whole set and everybody that was on it were people very much like us. So it got us work. But we had to do something else in between, and we had to get work in clubs, which meant we had to entertain California audiences who had never seen anything like us in their lives. And one of the things that enabled us to do that, this is something Rodney and I did. We thought, why don't we make up a song about moonshine whiskey? Back home, you don't do that. They've got plenty of that. California people, however, moonshine was a romantic thing, like you drink out of a martini glass, all clear and everything. They didn't think about them getting so drunk you'd have to hang out of the grass to lean against the ground. which is more where moonshine's at. Rodney and I knew an old man that made moonshine whiskey, and he made up the tune, and I wrote the words for this, and we changed the name to protect the guilty because he might get arrested back home if he had a song in his own honor. And he had a good business, he made good whiskey, and he always carried a snake with him. Because we're kind of a religious community back there, and people don't drink unless they've been snake bit. And he didn't have to take a chance on it, you know. Like the little town of Bunker down south of us, they only had one old snake, and they just wore it out. I mean, it was gumming people and stuff. So he'd take his snake around, he'd sell us a bunch of moonshine whiskey. Well, I thought that's kind of funny. They'd get a kick out of hearing about that. And so Rodney and I, the more we got going with this story, the more we added to it, till after the years, we told everything about the whole family, everything they did. He had 2 daughters that helped him with the still. What we refer to back home, being kind about it, is big woolly girls. There's an Ozark saying, type of girl, if you lifted up one arm, 2 bats, and a whippoorwill would fly out. You kind of understand where the type was. We made up a tune about this old man because he was the only person in Salem that had never gone to jail for making moonshine whiskey. Half of the other people had. I even had a time or two. This old man had never gone to jail. He was very careful, and people respected him. And, you know, it wasn't they didn't know he was making moonshine. Of course, everybody knew. He'd back his truck up to the only store in town every Saturday and load 500-pound sacks of sugar in the back of it. And you know, they knew he wasn't making fudge up there. At any rate, this song has lasted a long time, and so have we, so have a little damn respect for both of us. This is called Dueling.
Good old man who lived below the mill. Dooley had 2 daughters and a 40-gallon still. One gal watched the boiler, the other watched the spout. Mama corked the bottles when old Dooley fetched them out. Dooley slipping up a holler, Dooley trying to make a dollar. Dooley, give me a swaller and a payback someday. When into town he'd come, sugar by the bushel and molasses by the drum. Revenuers came for him slipping through the woods, but Dooley kept behind them all and never lost his goods. Dooley slipping up a holler, Dooley trying to make a dollar. Dooley, give me a swaller and a payback someday. Day old Dooley died, women folk looked sorry and the men stood around and cried. Now Dooley's on the mountain, he lies there all alone. They put a jug beside him and a barrel for a stone. Dooley slipping up the holler, Dooley trying to make a dollar. Dooley, give me a swaller and a payback someday. And a payback someday.
Thank you all very much. We're going to do a song for you that this is kind of what the Ozarks are about. Kentucky is one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited in my life. I may just move here. So, the problem with Missouri, it's getting overcrowded now. Branson was the cause of that. And we were the other cause of it because people would see us and they thought, boy, they must come from a pretty place, so they all moved there. Now we can't even go home anymore. This is a song we wrote about home the way it used to be. It's a song that lasted a lot of years. Joe Stewart, who used to play with Bill Monroe, wrote this, an old fiddle tune, played it for me one night, and both of us were pretty well lashed up. And I wrote the lyrics to it, and this is a fiddle tune of Joe's, and the lyrics are about the whole world round.
Well, I heard my neighbor's rooster crow early in the day. I heard his ex beyond the hill, and now I'm bound away. For some men love the city life, others crave the town. But I'll be bound for the lonesome woods where I can settle down. Fiddle and a bow and the firelights glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I'll leave behind my trouble in mind, go the whole world round. Well, the red squirrel leaves when the gray squirrel comes. The eagle nest alone. 100 miles from a wagon track is where I'll build my home. Fiddle and a bow and the firelights glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I'll leave behind my trouble in mind, go the whole world round. Well, I've seen the omen whittling wood, I've seen the streets of town. I'll pack my goods for the Arkansas woods, and there I'll settle down. Fiddle and a bow and the firelights glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I'll leave behind my trouble in mind, go the whole world round. Fiddle and a bow and the firelights glow, you can hear that lonesome sound. I'll leave behind my trouble in mind and go the whole world round.
We got there, we auditioned in a club at the time, was called the Ash Grove, which was sort of the hub of the folk scene with Baez and all those folks and the political left and da-da-da. And here were these guys from Missouri walking into all of this. And we auditioned one night out in the lobby. We just got out our instruments and started playing in the lobby of this folk club. And the president, the owner of Elektra Records, happened to be there. And a producer who had produced a lot of records for him and different people who later on went to put the Eagles together. His name was Jim Dixon. He was there, and they asked us if we wanted to make a record. So, yeah, okay, we'll do this. Then later on, we signed with the largest agency in the world, which is William Morris. Then they put a blurb in the paper, and within a month, this blurb in the Variety, in Hollywood Variety, said, Rangy Mountain Group signs with Elektra Records and William Morris. Andy Griffith's people saw that, and that's how the Andy Griffith Show came about. We went over there to audition, and we went over to Desilu, auditioned, we got through a song, halfway through a song, and Andy just slapped his legs and says, that's it, that's what we're looking for.
I thought maybe I would take this time maybe to play a little harmonica, because I know you love the harmonica.
No way, forget it.
So I've been doing this for fun, and I don't get to play the harmonica a lot, and I got this the other day in Branson as a souvenir. And I thought I would just play just a little tune.
I'm deaf, I'm not crazy, Rod.
I'd like to do something from Cats.
Rodney,
I mean the real ones.
35 years been trying to pawn that thing off on groups of
Y'all
people.
don't want to hear him play that, do you?
Oh, Lord. No.
See, they love it. Impeccable taste they have.
You know, that reminds me, Rodney, very much. Can I see that?
Yeah, you
It
can see
reminds me of an accordion. In the Ozarks, you can always, a gentleman is a person who knows how to play the accordion and doesn't. It's kind of the way with this one.
You know what I'm
Take, go on. Good for you, Rodney.
Thank you.
The reason I fell out for a minute, I've suddenly got my hearing aids working. I'm hearing every. Oh, Dillard.
Don't let me run.
Look what you.
One impression of an Edsel. Whoa.
Nothing ever.
Whoa. Whoa.
I stuck that in the wrong place. We're going to do you another song that made us probably infamous, trying to make a living picking for all these Hollywood people who had never, in the first place, ever heard bluegrass before, and second place, had never seen anybody like us before. I forgot to mention to you a while ago, when Andy Griffith looked at us, we went down. We were right out of Salem. We'd been watching him the month before on television, and all of a sudden we're standing on the set of the jail set, and in a studio at Desilu, and we're all embarrassed and just doing the best we can. And Andy tried to make us all feel comfortable and everything. He said, "You guys, you're perfect for this family that we want you to play." He said, "You look like you had the collective intelligence of a box of tacks." Nicest thing anybody ever said.
But what really got us is that they got us out there and got us on that show and paid us money to do something we'd been doing for free all our lives.
And not having to look a bit different either. But for the rest of the Hollywood people, we had to come up with something. And we made up a song. Well, I'll tell you what happened. We were caught by our own tail those first 2 or 3 years. They had us playing places we'd never been. We were invited to the Newport Folk Festival by mistake. And we got out there and met people like Judy Collins and Bob Dylan and Joan Baez. And we went out to sing, to watch her sing, because she has a beautiful voice anyway, and I'd never got to see her. And she sang a song called "Old Blue" that we had been doing for, as long as we'd been together. But we didn't do it that way. And Rodney looked at me and said, "Do you reckon we've been doing that song wrong?" It's real sad, she droned it out and dragged it out to you. I felt sorry for the dog, and I'd seen 3 of them run on in the yard that morning. What we did, Rodney and I figured it out. I said, "Rodney, obviously they do not feel about dogs the way we do in the Ozarks. Possibly because Joan Baez has probably never used a privy. And well, a lot of people nowadays don't even know what a privy is, and I hate that. Because it means I'm in for such an exploitation. Well, those little blue things are kind of a privy, only ours were made of wood, and they set up about 50 or 100 yards behind the house, which of course in the wintertime was 100 yards too far. But in the summertime it was way 100 yards too near. You know how privies are. And everybody ran foxhounds and coonhounds back home, and we took it for granted. In the wintertime, a coonhound is not, you know, the very highest level of intelligence out front anyway. He's got one thing on his mind, that's coons. Every now and then he finds that he's tired, and he'll stop wherever he is on anybody's place and lay up in the first place that's out of the wind, which at our house was always the privy, in case you left the door cracked a little bit. And it was, you know, it's Rodney's mother's fault. She put a rug down there to keep the wind from going. And the dogs loved that. And you'd wake up in the middle of the night, cold winter night, you know, maybe freezing rain outside, and you didn't want to go to that privy, but it was, you know, the alternative was worse. But you knew what it was going to be out, like, you know, the ground all froze up slicker than deer guts on a pump handle out there. And you had to make it 100 yards out there to that place. And you'd finally get down there fighting the wind and all, and open the door, and somebody's coon hound was curled up in there, grinning at you, going like you just built the place that morning. And we finally figured it out. If, you know, anybody that's been growled out of their own privy half a dozen times a winter does not sing Old Blue like Joan Baez does. Here's how we do it.
Had an old dog and his name was Blue, and I bet you $5 he's a good dog too. I bred old Blue to a dog named Green, and all the pups were aquamarine.
Rodney, would you sing this straight?
Blue, Blue, you good dog, you. 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 Well, shoulder my axe and toot my horn. Gonna get a possum in the new green corn. Bake that possum good and brown. Lay those sweet taters round and around. Blue, Blue, you good dog, you. 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 When old Blue died, he died so hard. He shook the ground in our backyard. I dug his grave with a silver spade, laid him down with a golden chain. Blue, Blue, you good dog, you. 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 Well, when I get to heaven's first thing I'll do, I'll grab my horn and I call for Blue. Blue, Blue, you good dog, you. 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 Blue, Blue, you good dog, you.
I think that our presentation, of course, on-stage presentation, developed. I think if we'd have gone to Nashville, maybe we would have developed a style. Maybe we're on our way to do that.